No, I choose people who don't want to be written about, on the whole, whose lives are shrouded in mystery, and they want to hide their secrets. And I just love digging away to find out what they don't want us to know. I wrote 4 years ago a book about Prince Charles, and it was a story about how he had rehabilitated himself after Diana's death, and how Camilla also had to be rehabilitated. So when Meghan came along into the scene, I just thought, this is fascinating. How is this going to play out?
Okay. So you guys love a good royal scandal. And this one's got layers. We're diving deep into the Meghan Markle age conspiracy. And it's way more than just a little white lie about how old you are. We're talking potential fraud, marriage validity, and a whole lot of questions about who Meghan Markle really is. The guy behind all this is Tom Bower. Now, Bower isn't some random tabloid writer. This dude is a serious investigative biograph. He's taken down some major figures. Robert Maxwell, Simon Cowell, even Prince Charles. He doesn't mess around. He spends years researching, fact-checking, and digging up dirt. So, when he says something, people tend to listen, or at least pay attention. His book, Revenge, Meghan, Harry, and the War Between the Windsor caused a massive stir. It painted Meghan as ambitious, manipulative, and basically willing to do anything to get to the top. And one of the biggest bombshells in the book, the claim that Meghan Markle might not be telling the truth about her age. Now, officially, Meghan's birthday is August 4th, 1981, which would make her like 42 or 43 right now. But Bower's research suggests she could be anywhere from 48 to 52. That's not a small difference, guys. That's a whole different decade. So, what evidence does he have? Well, the first thing he points to is an article from 17 magazine back in March 1997. The article lists Meghan Markle as being 21 years old. Now, do the math. If she was born in 1981, she would have been like 15 or 16 in 1997. That's a pretty big discrepancy, right? It's not like a typo. It's a whole 6 years off. Bower didn't just find this online either. He went to the actual archives, physically checked the publication, and confirmed that it was legit. So, either 17 magazine made a huge mistake, which is possible, but seems unlikely, or Meghan was lying about her age way back then. And it doesn't stop there. Apparently, Meghan's IMDb page originally listed her birth year as 1977, not 1981. Why would her professional acting profile have a different birth year? Bower thinks it's because in Hollywood, age matters. It determines what roles you can audition for. Meghan needed to be younger to compete, so she allegedly shaved off a few years. Sneaky, right? He's got screenshots of the original IMDb page, by the way. He's done his homework. And then there's her time at Northwestern University. Officially, she graduated in 2003 with a double major in theater and international studies. Sounds perfect, right? But Bower talked to her classmates, looked at alumni directories, and examined group photos. And guess what? Most of her classmates from that era are now in their early to mid-50s, not their early 40s. There's even a photo of her in the Northwestern Salsa Club. Bower contacted several people in that photo, and they all said they were born in the early 1970s.so. Either Meghan was hanging out with people 10 years older than her, or she was actually their age. One of her former classmates even told Bower that everyone knew Meghan was older than she claimed. It was like an open secret. Okay, so it gets even weirder. Meghan's own dad, Thomas Markle, has been interviewed like 1,000,000 times since she married Harry, right? He's talked about everything. Her childhood, her personality, how he feels about the whole family drama. But when Bower asked him about Meghan's birth year, he clammed up. He wouldn't say 1981 or August 4th, 1981. He just told Bower to check the records himself. Like, what does that even mean? Why wouldn't a father know when his daughter was born? Unless the official story is BS. And then there's Samantha Markle, Meghan's half-sister. She said the age gap between them is way smaller than Meghan claims. If Meghan was born in 81, there's a 17 years difference. But Samantha says they were much closer in age growing up, which would make sense if Meghan was born in the early to mid-70s. Suddenly, they're not that far apart, like sisters who actually played together. Let's talk about her acting career for a sec. If she was really born in 1981, she would have been around 25 years when she was holding briefcases on Deal or No Deal. That's young. It fits. But Bauer found that Meghan was struggling to get roles in her early days, and that doesn't really match up with someone in their early 20s. Casting directors have age cutoffs. You know, if you're over 30 years and not a star, it's harder to get those younger roles. Bauer's theory is that Meghan's career makes way more sense if she was actually older. She was aging out of the system and trying to stay relevant. She didn't land Suits until 2011. If she was 30, then she was already pushing it for that role. But if she was 36, she should have been too old to play Rachel Zane entirely. Unless of course she lied about her age. Oh, and get this. Remember when Archie was born? His birth certificate was filed with all the usual info, but then weeks later they amended it. Meghan's first and middle names were removed. It just said Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. Apparently, that's super rare for royal birth certificates. Palace insiders told Bauer they couldn't remember it ever happening before. So why would Meghan do that? Bauer thinks she's terrified of paper trails. If her full name, Rachel Meghan Markle, is on official documents, it's easier to dig in her past, school records, previous marriages, passport applications, and if someone starts digging, they might find birth years that don't match up. So, she scrubbed her name to make herself harder to trace. When Bauer's book came out, Meghan's lawyers went into overdrive. They sent legal threats, demanded retractions, and called the age claims baseless and defamatory. But Bauer had receipts, magazine archives, university records, witness testimonies. Meghan couldn't just make it go away. So what did she do? She went silent. No public statements, no birth certificate released, no press conference to clear things up, just silence. And that silence, according to Bauer, is deafening. If her story was legit, she'd release the evidence and shut everyone up, right? But she won't. And Bauer thinks it's because she can't. The truth doesn't match the official narrative. Okay, so here's where it gets really serious, because Bauer's not just saying she's vain or a bit of fiber. He's hinting at potential legal trouble. If Meghan lied about her age on official documents, like her marriage certificate, that could be considered fraud under British law. And fraud, get this, could be grounds for annulment. No, right? It sounds like something out of a movie. But Bauer talked to legal experts, and they all said the same thing. If she gave false info on her marriage documents, the whole thing could be invalidated. Now, that doesn't mean it will be, but the fact that it could is a huge deal, because if the marriage gets annulled, what happens to Archie and Leeds titles? It throws the whole line of succession into question. It's like a domino effect of legal chaos. And it doesn't stop there. Bauer also says that if Meghan lied to Netflix, Spotify, or any of her other business partners about her age, those contracts could be voided. She could get sued. She could lose a ton of money. That's why Bauer thinks she's so desperate to keep this quiet. It's not just about being embarrassed. It's about potentially losing everything she's built. And honestly, it kind of makes sense, right? If you had nothing to hide, you just show everyone the birth certificate and be done with it. But she's not doing that. And it gets even crazier. There have been rumors for years that Meghan has an older daughter from a previous relationship, a daughter who would be in her 30s. Now Bauer doesn't confirm this in his book, but he doesn't deny it either. He just says there are gaps in Meghan's timeline that have never been explained. He's like, look, if Meghan was born in 1973 or 1975 instead of 1981, those gaps start to make sense. She would have been in her early 20s, in mid-90s, old enough to have had a child. Maybe she gave the child up for adoption. Or maybe family members raised her. Is there proof? Not solid proof, but there are whispers, rumors, people who claim to know the truth, but won't go on record. It's all very hush-hush and mysterious. And the thing is, if this daughter exists, it changes everything. It adds a whole new layer to the story and makes you wonder what else she's been hiding. Then there's the whole thing with her mom, Doria Ragland. Apparently, there are fleas about Doria that are hard to access. There's a lawsuit from 1996 where she was being evicted. And there's also a criminal file that nobody can seem to get their hands on. It's like, what's going on here? Why is everything so secretive? And gotta say, it's weird that nobody in the media seems to be calling Meghan out on some of these inconsistencies. She's told stories about her childhood that just don't add up. Like the time she said she was 13 when she started working at Humphrey Yogurt. but the company says they've never hired anyone that young. Or the story about meeting Yasmin Velez, which also doesn't line up with the timeline of Velez's commercial. It's like she's not even trying to keep her story straight. And the more you look into it, the more questions you have. Bauer is not saying definitively how old Meghan is. He just lays out all the evidence and lets you decide for yourself. But his point is clear. Meghan Markle has been dishonest about some pretty important things. And if that's the case, what else has she lied about? The implications are huge, not just for her, but for the royal family and their reputation. It's a mess, and it's only getting messier. What do you think? Is Meghan hiding something? Or is this just a bunch of conspiracy theories?